Now, so many people get great equine product ideas, but don't know where to start. Well, today's podcast guest talks about how she developed her product from a pad that was on her grandfather's wheelchair into one of the most innovative saddle pads on the market today. And we talk all about her business struggles, tips for you also if you're setting up a business, and the truth behind the user-generated content and reviews that the product has got. So I'm really, really excited today to talk to Tamara from the V.I.P. So enjoy this episode, and of course, do make sure you let me know what you think. Welcome, Tamara. Welcome to Equine Business TV and the Equine Business Podcast. So, Tamara, you have got a very unique product called the V.I.P, and I'm sure many of our listeners have heard about it. So, tell us more about your product.
So what we did is we took a really innovative raw material and we turned it into impact protection saddle pads for horses. And it's all to do with the horse's comfort in mind, rather than fluffy, soft, touchy, frilly that rider likes to look at. And there's sort of anthropomorphic in some ways. So we took something that was solely for the horse's benefit. So it's got no trims on it because the panels of the saddle never fully sit within those trims. It's not sticky, so it doesn't pluck the hair or cause friction or stop the fascia from moving. It's got really thin, seamless edge. It's got no seams anywhere on it, so you don't get that pressure on the spine. And instead of what marketing term of air holes, which fill with hair and sweat, it's actually got bobbles, so it's completely the opposite. But one of the properties of this material that makes it so unique is that even though our pad is super slim and designed not to alter the fit of the correctly fitting saddle, let's face it, we all have close contact saddles. A lot of us have close contact saddles, and then put whacking great big pads underneath, so you're sat 10 foot off the horse. With VIP, it's really slim, but even unlike memory foam that squashes and flattens, with the VIP, it doesn't bottom out under any weight at all, which is really important, because when you think about it, the weight of a rider could be a child or it could be a 90-kilo adult. And so, with memory foam, that would determine sort of how much it compresses, whereas this stays the same regardless of the weight, even under the weight of a car. If you go to our page and look at me driving over Easter eggs and biscuits and all sorts of things, just protected by the VIP. So so that's what the product is.
So how did that all come about? Like, where would you even start with an idea like that? That just blows my mind.
Well, I've always been a bit of a nutty professor and have had sort of forays into designing orthopedic pitchforks, and one I did was socks for horses that no one said would ever take off, but there are now 2 companies who brought them out themselves. But essentially, so about 1998, 2000, 2002, around that period, I had my heart firmly set on being a dressage rider, and I had 3 really good horses in full-time training on an international yard. And people at the time were using, it was really just about sheepskin. That's sort of what it was about. When my grandfather died, he was sat on a wheelchair pad, and he had Parkinson's, so he was quite immobile. And this pad was designed by a surgeon about 40 years ago in America to shield and protect his patients from pressure sores, ulcers, and it's basically a skin fat substitute but made out of this gel material. Anyway, so I nabbed that wheelchair pad, this big heavy rectangular thing, and stuck it under my dressage saddles and rode in it for 2 years. And despite the level that my horses were working at, they never had an issue through their backs. And I was like, this is interesting. And sort of it took off on the yard, and it was quite niche. I think a couple of yards ended up with them. And then we just put them in these sort of fleecy pillowcases, and it was sort of a made-up job. Anyway, so I had a long gap from horses, no horses at all, went to university. And when I came back to ride again and I got a horse, I was looking for this pad and I couldn't find it. So I went through all the other gels, all the other half pads you could possibly buy. And, but I just didn't like them. You know, there were so many things I didn't like about them. And so I went looking for this raw material, couldn't find it. And then fast forward a bit, and I decided that, you know, we really have to do something about it. So I got together with a really good friend and a brilliant businesswoman, Amanda Renoir, who's my business partner. And we sat one evening on the kitchen floor at about midnight on a stone floor with bubble wrap and cardboard and quite a lot of wine. And we decided that this was going to be a saddle pad. And we just made it completely opposite of every other pad on the market. So as I say, like seamless, no trims, no holes, the opposite of holes, bobbles, just completely the opposite. And we found the manufacturers of the raw material in America, and these two kind of blonde, slightly naive women got on a plane and ended up in some boardroom with a company that employs 200 people. Yeah, where everyone in the company is a president. I don't know what it is in America. Everyone is a president. And I sat there and I was like grinning like a Cheshire cat, and I was this nervous energy. And I think they just looked at us initially and were like, "Oh my God, you're so nuts that we're almost going to humour you." So they said, bearing in mind we'd scraped the £600 together for the air ticket over there. They said, yes, we can make this for you. We can contract manufacture this for you, but it's going to cost you X in tooling costs, this. And we just looked at each other. Amanda and I looked at each other and knew there was no way we could pay for that. So we just turned around and said, well, we sold them the prospect of being in an equestrian market, and we must have done quite a good sales job, because we walked out of there with a deal whereby they paid the initial setup for the contract manufacturing, for all the tooling, for everything. And we ate our lettuce leaf because that was free that night, and got back on a plane back to England. And so that was the start of it. And in the beginning, Amanda has many other jobs as well, all equestrian related. And I had my heart set on being a psychologist. So in the beginning, we didn't form it as a limited company. We just sort of dabbled with it, and sales were really slow, to the point that you kind of asked, is this a business proposition or is it not? And then several things happened. Well, I'm virtually unemployable, so working for someone who makes me jump through red tape for the sake of it was just not going to happen. I'm too opinionated. And so, yeah, we decided 2 years ago in January. So January 2 years ago, so what, two and a bit years now, we set it up as a limited company, and we went from there. And we haven't really looked back. We've had challenging times, obviously, and it's been a very, very, very steep learning curve. But yeah, no, it's been good. It's really good.
Like, so you said that you've had some challenging times. What would you say has been the most challenging part for you?
It's just the most, and we've just been on a really steep learning curve with it. So all the things you need to do when you set up a business that I knew absolutely nothing about, especially where international trade is concerned. Dealing with social media can be a real challenge at times. People, as a product grows, the hype around the product has got so big that, and people are writing such nice things about it, which is amazing. But at the same time, everyone expects it to be some massive puzzle piece. You know, it's a missing puzzle piece. It's not a Allegro maker. You know, it's not. You're not going to put it on your horse and, well, some people say they get instant results, but then that means that people who don't are disappointed. Whereas really, it's about the long-term health and protection of your horse's back, long-term comfort. Yeah, it's not a quick fix.
Yeah, and it is. I guess I've seen some of the things that people have written and said that they've been so skeptical in the past about it, and then tried it and gone, oh, actually, they can notice the difference. But yeah, so social media can be really, really hard in that sort of respect, can't it? Especially when
and riders have to have feel in the first place. You know, not all riders have good feel, or not all riders are stable in their body. You know, there can be so many other reasons why a horse is like sore over its back. You know, medical, psychological, rider fitness, right? Well, you know, horsey people know. And and sometimes, you know, you get the odd sort of slightly, very rare, but you get the odd sort of slightly grumpy, aggressive email, and then you think, this can't be right. And then you go and look at their profile picture, and they're sort of extended trot, hanging out the back of their saddle, you know, hanging on the mouth with the horse's ears pinned back, with their spurs dug in, with the tongue hanging out, and you're like, you know, you know, sorry, but so
there's a lot more training issues there that need to be dealt with.
We say it's one puzzle piece, you know. If for some people it might be that final puzzle piece and make a massive difference. For others, you know, they can be, you know, they have to sort other stuff out first.
But I guess it's about like horse welfare and making sure that your saddle is not and your body weight is equally balanced, I guess, is what it helps with. So what other benefits would you say that the pad delivers?
Well, this is quite interesting. So when we started out, it was all about protecting the horse's back for us. But what we found is that actually there are a lot of riders who are feeling the benefits too. And I'm trying to find out a way to study this, like research this at the moment, and to put this into action. But when you think about like the weight of the horse and rider is 100%, but probably max 20% of that is the rider and 80% of that is the horse. So I think that one of the ways that it works is, but this is just guessing, I think one of the ways it works is it shields the rider from the upward forces from the horse and makes them more comfortable and feel a bit more stable than it does as much the other way around. But I think it's a very good interface between the horse and the rider, because it doesn't move, but it's got two sides that move ever so slightly independently of each other, because one side's flat against the side and then the other side's bobbles. And I just think it perhaps takes some of that kind of sting out of the movement for the rider, and you get that upward cushioning, so then they're softer through their back, they sit softer, so then the horse becomes softer through their back, and then the rider sits softer. So I think there's this kind of cycle that goes on between, and I think that's one of the quite surprising things about it.
And so I guess it's really hard to even do any research into how that works. I guess it would take quite a lot to.
Well, I'm quite geeky. I am quite geeky, so I do spend a lot of time in the evening reading research journals, and I have found formulas for upward movement and how to measure upward movement. But the maths is beyond me. I think, you know, you need to be sort of master's level maths to understand it. But we have got a very good team of vets, physios, saddlers, researchers around us, and we're talking to them the whole time about doing a study to measure stride length. We think it might have an impact on stride length. We think it might have an impact on the equine respiration. We think in galloping horses, potentially. These are all hypothetical scenarios, not fact. I won't tell you they're fact. But in galloping horses, quite often the bleed in a racehorse will come from under where the rider sits in terms of the lungs. So we're wondering, by cushioning with a VIP, whether you could reduce bleeding in racehorses, for instance. But yeah, there are. Oh, and then obviously, you know, you measure standard impact testing with clients and things. But I think there are much more interesting metrics. You know, but okay, so compliance testing produces a pretty graph, which the public like, but there's so much more to the science of a product than that. And you see, we're in a very fortunate position because our raw material has already had 40 years of medical testing behind it. In hospital sectors, it's used in 90% of American hospitals. It's used in gun recoil pads for the American military. It's used on the inside of bulletproof vests. So the Kevlar will stop the bullet, but actually what causes the damage to a human body is the continued inward shock that the energy of the bullet keeps going. So they line it with the VIP material. Stunt clothing, just American football helmets is another one. So it's a really tested material, but it's about taking the testing and doing it the right way, taking the testing that's there and then making it transferable. And I do sometimes get quite grumpy saddlers who, you know, kind of get cross about it, and you can try and explain it. And, you know, we have quite often students and things from colleges offer to test it. But I know what it was like to be an undergraduate student, and it's just about ticking the box with your dissertation to get it done. And I don't want that. I want a clinically significant number of test cases. I want to end up with public research. So a college student, undergraduate college student, isn't really the way forward for us.
And so, I mean, you've done your own little tests, like doing your videos where you've put your ginger nut biscuit in it and driven over it in your car, and then you did the Easter eggs. So what's your next one that you're going to test it out on? Have you got any ideas?
Funny you should say that. So I've been kind of plotting and planning. Maybe by the time this goes out, I would have done it. I'm going to drive over my iPhone 11 Plus. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, because everyone thinks that everyone on the internet is so cynical about all of these things. They think they're staged, or if it's not one continuous shot. Like, I don't even have the knowledge to kind of fakery, with videos. Like it is or it isn't. But I have become more mindful when people criticize them. And I'm like, no, I didn't cheat. It's just, so I'm going to make a call to Amanda, my business partner in France, so that you can see she's on the screen of my actual phone. And then obviously when you go near your car, it links through the audio, doesn't it? It picks it up by the Bluetooth. So then I'll have her speaking here while the phone goes under the wheel with her live on the screen. And then I will talk to her as I'm driving over her, so to speak, over the phone. This is my next one.
That is so brave. It's made my eyes water just thinking about it. Because if
that goes wrong. But I think I'm going to have to come with a big disclaimer saying, do not do this
at home. Yeah, unless you're
not replacing your phone.
Yeah, unless you're so confident in our product that you want to take the risk, but we won't. Wow,
it's quite fun because our stockists kind of pick up on our videos, and they like hammer the saddlers and things, get their hammers out and get their clients hammering their hands, and then our stockists in Zimbabwe drove a bigger truck over it, and then the one in France did a Renault with something else. So everyone does their own sort of versions of these, which is quite good fun. But people do think that they're faked.
Yeah,
but they're not.
There's always going to be some skeptics out there, isn't there? And I guess we're so used to having saddle pads on the market that are, do you know what I mean? They're just saddle pad. And you wouldn't test it with putting your chocolate eggs in it, certainly, because you'd end up with
chocolate everywhere,
chocolate all over your nice sheepskin or whatever it was. So I think unless you actually see the product, feel the product,
to try and explain to someone what it feels like. The closest thing that it feels like is if you find somewhere fat on your body. Like I'm amply blessed like that, but if you find something to pinch, and the way that it feels like skin and fat, and that's sort of what you're doing to your horse. You're adding another layer of skin and fat to it. So it's got a very unique feel. It doesn't feel like gel. A lot of gels are rubber based. It doesn't feel like that. It's got a thin film on the outside of it, which is a bit like a membrane. So then that feels different. It's just quite peculiar until you get your hands on it. Yeah, and we appreciate that, which is why we do a 14-day money get back guarantee, because let's face it, equestrian products are expensive. When you add the word horse in front of something, then the price goes up a lot. But I want people to buy with confidence, and even for it to be the thing that they try first, knowing that if they don't get on with it, they can just send the pad back and I give them a full refund. And that's what we do. And it is an expensive product, but it's an expensive product because we have to buy it and it's expensive to start with, but then we have to import it. You've got import tax, shipping fees, you've got to deal with currency exchange rates, you've got to deal with repackaging, we try not to have too many overheads, but we now have a fulfillment company who does all our packing and stuff and shipping for us. And then still we've ended up with distributors and stockists. So obviously they want a bit of a margin. And then after all of that, you still kind of got to take a basic wage out of it. Yeah. So I think that people are too quick to assume that they're all being ripped off. So to offset that, I do the money back guarantee.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, you don't want people who don't like the product as much as either, do you? You want to make sure that everybody is confident that actually they're
And the stock is always in such high demand that I'd rather the people who need it and want it have it, those who don't.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say, like, in all of everything that you've done, what has been like the most challenging time for you in your business in general, from beginning to now? Because like even the last couple of months we've had tricky
Yeah,
times.
it's been changed. So I'll come back to COVID in a minute, but so in the beginning, it was just the fact that I just didn't know anything. All the factors that I said just now that build the price up. Well, my very first, I was very excited, the first big order to go to Australia for a stockist, a distributor there. I didn't realise I needed an EORI number. I didn't realise I needed commercial shipping paperwork. I just didn't know any of this. And it was so embarrassing. The shipment got lost and they ended up not reordering, which is fine. But I'm glad it happened at that stage and sort of further on. So there are things like this that you just, all people don't seem to realise that if you're exporting again, that the product itself needs a code. And there is a 900 and something page book, which you can read online, that describes what the product might be, and that gives you a product code. And so like sporting, made of, there are so many subsections, and you have to have the right code. And then the shipping and the deferment paperwork, it's really, really that side of it. And in the beginning, setting up a bank account even was challenging, because high street banks wouldn't give us a bank account, even though I'd been with, say, Lloyd's for 18 years or something. So then we had to go to Tide, which was great in the beginning, but it doesn't handle international payments and international shipments. So we had people wanting us to pay in euros, or they were paying us in euros, and then it would have made sense to go out and buy something else in euros. And then we had the same with dollars, and you just can't make these international transactions. And if you go, so eventually Lloyd's did give us an account, but it's been nothing but a nightmare since, because I'm in like a rural location. So you go into Lloyd's and you say, I want to make a currency transaction for this amount to there, and they just look at you like they're just used to paying the local butcher. It's too complicated. Yeah. It's just too complicated for them. And then what else has been challenging? I think sometimes when you're on your own, well, I'm not really on my own, but Amanda lives in France, so we're on WhatsApp most days, calling and like assigning tasks and stuff. But I think sometimes when you're in, like, you have to like really keep the motivation there. Yeah. I think that it's quite easy when you're quite perfectionist like me. It's quite easy to procrastinate about the tasks that need to be done, but you feel that it's too big, or you feel can't manage it. And I think that kind of just goes in tow with sort of general well-being. I think you have to kind of marry the two together. You've got to know your strengths and weaknesses, and then assign and be willing to kind of outsource or assign. And I know that there was a point early this year where I just had zero motivation, and we had a chat, and then from there it enabled me to like really kind of drive forward and turn everything around. I'm still, despite your efforts, not an Instagram queen. I'm very much with Facebook, but for now it works for us. So
yeah, and I see that you're growing all the time in stock, like getting new stockists, which is awesome.
Like we get requests from 3-4 stockists a day. But the thing I love our stockists, because we're not going out looking for business. They're coming to us, and they're all saddle fitters, master saddlers, physios, veterinary physiotherapists, equine touch, TCT, vets, rehab centres. They're all people who are passionate, and some of them don't buy in huge volume, but they're coming back like a week and a month later, and they're all reordering. And it's not a product that would sit very well on a shelf for the reasons I've said. It doesn't appeal to the rider's matchy instincts or soft touchy feely. It's all about the horse, and saddlers get it, and it complements the work they do because it's so slim fitting.
Yeah.
And I think that saddles nowadays, especially the close contact ones, I think there has to be a compromise between close contact and how much padding you actually have in your saddle. So in some ways, you can just add a little bit more by putting a VIP under it. So you get the job of what, say, a full panel of wool flock might have had in times gone by.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's an awesome sort of thing to sort of watch how a business is already starting to move forward and progress. So what have you got planned sort of for the future? What are your hopes and your vision for the
Well,
VIP?
distributors in more countries. So they're like on a business sense. So we've got people in Australia, New Zealand, France. Which other countries we've got that are a bit? Oh, Zimbabwe stroke South Africa, and they're amazing because they have to make a plan in order to sell anything because there's no infrastructure. So and they're quite big for us. And then some of the sort of Scandinavian countries are sort of on board, but it's stalled. It was getting to that point right before COVID, which has obviously been a challenge. And so the contracts with them have slightly stalled until they're selling and up and running again. But that's fine. But going forwards, we've got more colourways, especially the brown. Everyone's long awaiting the brown, I think, to go with showing saddles. But it's really difficult. So brown and white are coming. But if I say to you, what colour is brown? I bet you could show me 30 browns. And the same with white. I didn't know that white was titanium white, this white, that white. And so when you buy a white saddlecloth, what colour is white? So brown we're calling coffee brown, and it's as close as we've got to traditional Havana. Yeah. And then the white we're calling winter white or warm white. I'm not quite sure which one yet. But then we've also got a sensitive that's coming out. That will just be a bit thicker, and in the testing we've done, it's been quite effective with mares, especially when around the time that they're coming into season. I think just having a bit more, because who knows, I think they probably all got period pain. It does seem to help them.
We're the same, aren't we? So I guess
that was back, so it seems to help with that. And then obviously, and then we're developing a racing pad for the racing market. And then we're doing an XL with the high wither. That's further ahead than the racing, and then obviously a pony, and then lots of things beyond that. But everything's stalled just at kind of the wrong time.
Yeah, so COVID, because I know you'd headed off to
Spoga.
Yeah,
we had an amazing time at Spoga. Like, I'd never been before, and I couldn't get over it. And some of the stands there, like if you're in the trade and you want to go and Google something pretty cool, some of these stands have gardens and waterfall and bouncers and hospitality girls, and like I just couldn't believe it. And then we had our little stand. We'd gone there with a minimal budget. We don't really have a big budget for marketing or anything, so we'd gone there and we had a stand that was barely the size of the pony stable, and we had an amazing show, whereas some of the big boys had said that it wasn't that good, and we were like, no, it was amazing. But so no, we'll probably, I don't know whether COVID will make that a success for us this year, but the following year, I dream one day that we're big enough to go and have one of these amazing stands. That's what
that would be great, and I will come along, and
I want to drink champagne all day.
Pour me a champagne and celebrate when you do. So, I'm sure it will. So it looks sort of good. So if you were to give some advice to anybody looking to start an equine business, what would your tips be?
Well, I had a good think about this beforehand. So the thing is sort of slightly covering what I've already. Get your infrastructure in place first. Like, get all your admin, your bank accounts, the codes, the trading numbers. Get your website sorted. But don't spend much money on it. Do it as cheaply as possible. You don't want the overheads, and don't speculate on something that you think might do well. You can always go back and reinvent those things. So we're about to go to version 2.9 or something on our website. So that will be coming out in the next month or so. Also, know your market and be passionate about it. And just don't go and make something that's already out there or that's similar to anything else, because you have to have a point of difference.
Yeah.
It costs, what they say, it costs the same to keep a good horse as a bad horse. And I think it's the same with business. The effort you put in and the value you place on your effort is the same, whether you're repeating what someone else has done or whether it's something completely new and innovative that you can get excited about and that the market can get excited about. Costings. Don't undervalue your product. Don't be afraid. When I realized this product was going to go over £100, I really was like, oh, I don't know about this. But I had Amanda, and I'm hopeless with numbers and banking and accounting, but she's incredible, so she handles all of that. And we went through the pricings, but it comes back to those things as well. So if you are importing something, you need to really think about, the currency exchanges, the shipping, the import taxes, and it's different between state to state in America or countrywide, and the handling costs and the fluctuations. So you need to kind of, don't undersell yourself if you want to be able to eat some boiled eggs at the end of the night.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite, they're really good tips. I absolutely love it. It costs the same to keep a bad horse as a good horse. Yeah, and it is totally the same in business. And sometimes we get so stuck that we just we keep sort of pouring all that energy and time and effort in, and actually it's not right.
Don't throw good money after bad.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've been able to do quite well is keeping your overheads down. So for as long as possible, I did everything from home. In terms of shipping, I worked from home, so didn't have to pay, any kind of business stuff. But then when it got to about 50 units, we shipping 50 units a day and all the stockist orders and the way to the boxes, I sort of almost lost the will to live, and it was distracting me from everything else I wanted to do. So just before Christmas this year, we took on a fulfillment company in Newbury, and we really landed on our feet with them. It was the first one we chatted to, and there are 8 of them, and they're all family, and they deal mostly with businesses like ours that have outgrown their spare rooms type thing. And they've been a real godsend to us. So yes, there is a fee in charge with that, but we don't really spend money where we don't have to.
Yeah.
We don't spend any money on advertising. And I think, so I think you get to a point with it where you know what you do need to spend on, but don't set this infrastructure up in the very beginning. Just set it up as you need to go. And I think also, really recognize your strengths and your weaknesses. So we're hilarious. We're not Tweedledum and Tweedledee, but Amanda and I joke that we share a battery, because she's amazing at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sort of falls asleep at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm hopeless at 5. You wouldn't even see me at 5 o'clock in the morning. I have to get up and have coffee and probably ride a horse until I'm functioning at about 10:30. But then I'm the one that when you get customers, why do they do this? They think it's all right to message you at 1:30 in the morning it's just like, why do they do this? Because it's Messenger, but we sort of all expect an instant response from Messenger now. Or at the weekend. This was the first weekend in 2 years where I said, I am not responding to any business messages. But I think it's hard because in the beginning it's that customer service and it's that interaction that gets your sales.
Yeah, and you so want to please and need to please and think, so sadly the age of Prime and Amazon and everything coming next day and getting it.
Literally,
it's really, really hard for small businesses, isn't it? That's why I've got like autoresponders on everything. So my Facebook Messenger, my email, they'll get a straight away autoresponder that says, I check my messages at this time, and that's when I'll reply to you. Because if there's only one of you, like there is with me, and I know there is sort of with you doing that side and answering the messages, yes, you've got to have a life as well, haven't you?
No, well, it's good, so it's like recognizing your strengths and weaknesses. And so Amanda's now taken on all the stockists, which is great, because I got to the stage that so many people were ordering, and I hated invoicing. We don't ever do this. That I would send the stock an invoice later, and not often, but I was just like, oh, I can't keep up. And she's very logical and rational, and if you want nutty professor, that's me. But really, she is the bones, and well, she's more than the bones. Yeah, she's very creative too. But we just work well. Like, we have different skill sets and operate at different times of day, which is good. So yeah, those are sort of some other things, and I think the other is it a challenge? No, I think probably what other advice do I have? Probably nothing. But you can always message me. Message me, because if you don't go through it, ask someone who has. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of like why I do what I do and set up the Equestrian Business Support Network. Because sometimes, when we're on our own and we're trying to run our businesses and we're trying to start off, we need to have that place so we can go and have that support.
I know at times the conversations that I've had with you have just been really helpful. Even when I sort of known what I had to do and was just feeling sort of miserable about the whole thing and not really applying myself. And I think it's very easy in business to, when it's going well, it's exciting, and you don't even have to think about your motivation or your engagement levels, or you have so many ideas and it just goes easy. It's easy. But in the beginning, when you have these slow patches, then it's very hard to stay on track. And I know you describe them as your tribe, but you need those people around you. If you can sort of have an outside perspective and help you kind of see the wood for the trees, and kind of just lay out, well, you do this task, you do this task, you do this task, rather than sort of looking at one big scrambled brain.
It's so easy to get yourself. I called it yesterday. I'm in the middle of a book, and she was talking about getting your financial poop in a scoop, and I thought, we need to get our business poop in a scoop sometimes, because occasionally we get into a state where it's like we haven't poo picked our field forever, and you just see all the poo, don't you? You just go, I can't bear it. I'm overwhelmed. It's too much, and I think we get into that state a little bit. It's actually going, no, actually all I need to do is, first step one is pick up the poop scoop, get the wheelbarrow, get one, and do a little, and sometimes you just need somebody to go, it's okay, we can do it.
And I think this weekend was the first time, and I'm definitely going to do it again because it suddenly made the weekend last a lot longer in a nice way, is that on Friday afternoon I completely cleared my desk, opened my post, did all those things. Even when you're working in a house, it's the same. I even emptied the dishwasher and put some clothes washing on, and all those things that when you're at home you sort of have to become oblivious to in the week a little bit, because otherwise you'd spend your life tidying and cleaning your environment and no time working. So on Friday, I really kind of got my ducks in a row, and then on Saturday I could enjoy my horse and do some painting and walk my dog, and all the things you should be doing in a weekend.
Because actually when we take that time out, we can show up much better in our businesses as well, can't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I hope people get that. I hope people, you've got to kind of look after yourself. You are your business. And I think that's quite important.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess as women as well, we get quite emotionally attached to our businesses as well, which makes it even harder to shut off.
Honestly, I get on social media, I get so protective over what I'm doing and what I get like multiple threads on Twitter eventing, eventing, bush dressage. I get so many of them, which is great, and they're nearly always resoundingly positive. And for the first time in 18 months, the other day I had one that, well, the question they asked was negative to begin with. Tell me all the bad things about VIP. I was like, okay, that was their question. So it was not, what do you think of VIP, or is it worth the money? It was, they were asking for bad things. And it really gets me then, it really, really gets me.
Because I guess people perceive that you are some big company and it's some massive,
it's not
funded thing, but it's not. It's personal to you. It's a passion project, isn't it, that started from...
literally from nothing. I mean, this is how I work on a daily basis. I have ramblings on a piece of paper. I've tried logical systems and all your clever Monday this, and I can't do it. It's just, it's all about the fountain pen and the scribbles on a piece of paper, and each day starts with a new scribble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is difficult, and I also think that well, we said about the kind of the unrealistic expectations. You're sort of managing the hype, and I'm constantly underselling. Oh, another tip in business: never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever slag off another product. Doesn't matter by name. It doesn't matter if you don't like it or whatever. You just don't do it. And you can say, well, memory foam products, and then people kind of know what's made of memory foam, or describe it, but never get personal with it. And never go for the hard sell either. Find out what the customer's needs are, and then go, then work with them like that. And sometimes I say, this is not going to work for you. You need to work on your saddle balance first, or this, or you might be better trying this. So never go for the hard sell. Like, they become friends.
There's nothing worse than being sold to by somebody that is just pushing for it anyway. It's just like, so no. I find that all very out of integrity as well. So I think that's
the one I'm struggling with at the moment is that they cropped up last night on British Dressage. It all kicked off there, but so people think that because we get such positive reviews that they're all kind of set up by ambassadors or people who are being rewarded, and hand on heart, until, in fact, they haven't had them yet. In 2.5 years, they haven't even had as much as a piece of clothing or a saddlecloth, or they don't get any money back. And actually, they buy their pads to start with, and then they like it and shout about it, and then they become a brand ambassador. But I don't think that people realise how kind of social media marketing works, and it's really turning against people who spread out discount codes and things now. And also, I had a question. So, which elite riders use your products? And yeah, we've got elite riders, but they're quite often under contract with another brand and being paid, tens of thousands of pounds to use that brand. And the general public don't know that. So if you're a company that starts out with a lot of money and a big marketing budget, then yeah, you probably do have elite riders because you're paying them a wage to for brand visibility. But people like us, we are dependent on people, ordinary people, shouting about the product. And you don't have to be the best rider competing at the highest level or to have a big spring of horses in order to get backing from a company. You just need to have integrity, is my advice to someone who wants sponsorship. You need to have integrity. You need to tell the brand what you can do for them, and how you're going to do it. And you just have to be really upbeat and positive about it. And that's how you'll become an ambassador. Use the product first, and then shout about it, and then see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think too many people approach with the I want to become. Yeah, will you sponsor me? Like they want something for nothing, don't they? Where they've not even used the product, or they've not looked at it.
No, and it always cracks me up when they say, "I love your products," and I'm like, "Well, I've only got one product." At the moment, I've only got one product, and you're telling me it's products. And yeah, I've got 200 people following me, but I hope to grow this soon. And we've actually now made a policy of not to work with under 18s, both for legally and child protection and everything else. I think it becomes a bit of a minefield when that happens.
Yeah.
So that does whistle down a few.
Yeah.
But one recently, and I'm going to mention her by name because she's just so lovely. There's a girl called Alice Banner, and she bought a VIP for her horse. I didn't know her from Adam, and she rode in it. She loved it. She made a before and after video and sent it to us. And we were so impressed, and it had such a big impact on our sales. And she'd done the same for Premier Performance CZ, the supplement company. And so Camilla, who owns that company, rang me up and said, "Oh, I see Alice has done a really good job for you too." So without Alice knowing, we got together with our embroidery Stitched Equestrian, who do all our embroidered clothing and stuff. And we we did her a rug and a jacket and a cap and everything, just to say thank you. And I think that's what brands need to do. They need to say thank you more, rather than incentivizing or money off, money off, money off. I think that's like a better way of doing it.
Yeah, and actually, it's much nicer to surprise people with that. And
oh, she was chuffed. She was so chuffed.
yeah,
She was so chuffed. I think, and I've just ordered a load of personalized caps and beautiful handmade key rings of little horses' heads, stuffed horses' heads, which have been stamped in the leather with VIP, and we're going to send them out. When someone does something nice for us like that, we're going to send them as a thank you to someone who's written a review that we never know our reviews are coming or who's written them.
No. And sometimes I've even pointed out that I've seen reviews, and I said to you, "Have you seen that?" And you're like, "No." And I've then
you sent me one the other day.
Yeah, like a blog post. Have you seen this? Like,
but yet people have such suspicions that they think that we're behind the writing of these, or that we've set it up, or we've given product, which we just haven't. So it is great. But please believe us when we say that VIP is what people say that it is. We're not clever marketeers or something. I'd rather go ride my horse than